Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Lens. This is Jake, and we are excited to be joined by Marcus Neiman, who is a great friend of the show. If you haven't listened to Marcus before, we featured him in our Four Roses episode and previously in our March Madness bracket. That's 3 years ago.
Way back.
He's been a repeating guest, and
I just hit a lifetime achievement of being called friend of the show.
Yeah.
I'm set.
Yeah, friend of the show. It's exactly what it is. We like friends of the show. There's a few of them.
First time, long time.
First time caller, long time listener. No, but Marcus is here to talk about something really in particular, and we're excited to team up with Kentucky to the World, and Marcus is on the board there. And so I'm going to promo this just a little bit before we dive into it, but Kentucky to the World is a great way to learn more about how Kentuckians are going out and doing great things in America and beyond. And we're excited to partner with their second bourbon raffle. 2 of our single barrels are going to be featured as the second place prize, along with 4 Bourbon Lens Kentucky Bourbon Trail glasses. I would be remiss if I didn't say that first, because the bourbon lineup that we have for the first place raffle, and tickets are $50.
Correct.
Tickets are $50, and this raffle is holy crap good. But first, before we get there, Marcus, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Marcus is in the office, is what I like to call it, aka in the basement, and we have rummaged around the old whiskey cabinet. We've tried many of drink tonight. Of many brands. But in particular, as we start this podcast, we're going to talk about one bottle that is featured in this upcoming raffle, which is one of my favorite whiskeys, Wild Turkey's Bottled and Bond 17-year-old. But Marcus, tell us a little bit more about Kentucky to the World and what they've done in their first raffle and going on to the second one.
Yeah, so to start, this year is actually Kentucky to the World's 10th year anniversary. Time has flown by. I started with them in 2020, pretty much right as soon as the pandemic hit too. So that time has flown by even more, and it's all a blur at this point. But Kentucky to the World has actually had a really great run. And pre-COVID stuff, it was a lot of in-person events, having speakers of those, like you mentioned, Kentuckians who really shine that, people might not know about. So Nobel Prize winners, rocket scientists, Grammy-winning musicians, done all that and more. But then, of course, everything moving more digital, shifted around a lot of programming, had to rethink about the way we do things. And this raffle is really a good way. It's obviously a fundraising mechanism for Kentucky to the World in general, but then at the same time, it's really showcasing some of the best of Kentucky. So Kentucky to the World hadn't even touched on bourbon yet, which shows you how much other good stuff Kentucky has going on. But obviously, bourbon is one of the best things Kentucky has going for it. So
just a $9 billion industry.
Exactly. And then this is trying to take the best slice of that, which so you're distilling the creme de la creme, you might say. So we're having this raffle. It's September 27th. So you can go to KentuckyToTheWorld.org or any of look it up on social media like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that. And then there'll be a link on any of those places to the raffle, and you can get your tickets for $50 up until September 27th, where we'll be having a live drawing. And we'll have a happy hour actually along with it, 6 to 8 p.m. with the drawing at 7:30, and we'll be at the Local Seltzery, which you're familiar with, downtown Louisville.
I may be a patron of the Local Seltzery on a given Friday, Saturday night. I was questioned by my wife why I liked it so much the other day. She was like, "Why are there so many charges for the Local Seltzery?" And I'm like,
"They're friends of the show as well.
They are.
You got to support them."
Exactly. Brax and Tyler are great people. Even though originally when I set up the podcast and started the podcast, I called Tyler Travis, and I felt miserably bad the entire time we did the podcast.
You don't need to relive that.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll leave it on here. But just as we talk about this, the Local Seltzery is a great place for a bourbon or beer person to reset your palate. It's the perfect way. On a long night out, they stay open with the bars, and
it's got a little bit of something for everybody.
It does, and the drinks are $6. It's super reasonable to go enjoy. You have cornhole outside. You got giant Connect 4. When my buddy had his bachelor party, we went 3 days in a row. We're longtime fans of the Local Seltzery, even though they've only been around 6 months.
So yeah, the live raffle, whether you get a ticket or not, it's a free event, so show up and hang out regardless. But as you mentioned, we have an absolute all-star lineup of bourbons that I put together along with the team at Kentucky the World, and it was a lot of fun getting it together. So yeah, what it looks like we just finished sipping on was the Wild Turkey Master's Keep, the 17-year-old bottle and bond. That alone, if we were raffling just that bottle, would probably be worth a $50 raffle ticket. And then
100%. And that's that was a $199 MSRP when it came out. Nowadays, I think secondary value on it's like $500-$700 somewhere in there. So, I mean, that bottle by itself, but I think we should save the big one to the last.
All right.
Yeah. But there's some ones that will get you excited. But the last bottle itself is probably worth $2-3 grand on its own. But we'll dive into the next one. What do you think? Maybe like the Four Gate?
Yeah. We got a really good. Oh, there is no bad Four Gates, but we have a really good Four Gate, and it's the Old Sherry Pike. It's an 8-year-old bourbon finished in an Oloroso sherry cask. We have the Heaven Hill, Parker's Heritage, the finished in the orange Curacao barrels. We have the Maker's Mark Community Batch, and this was done in partnership with the Lee Initiative, who Kentucky the World has actually featured before. Another phenomenal organization, if you want it. So there was a percentage of this bottle proceeds that went back to the Lee Initiative as well. So you're helping 2 nonprofits at once.
Double whammy.
And then the last one, we have one of the Woodford Reserve Toasted Oak Oat Grain. And this is signed by both master distillers.
That's fancy.
Yeah. And then with the drum roll, we have the Four Roses limited edition small batch for Al Young's 50th anniversary with the company. So,
and dare I may say, that may be of one of the greatest whiskeys to ever touch my lips.
It is a phenomenal whiskey, and just like the that Wild Turkey, the $50 raffle ticket is an absolute steal. If we were only raffling this bottle alone, and we have the rest of that lineup that I mentioned, so really value buy and really worth going and getting multiple tickets if you so choose and are able. But at the same time, so you got a chance to win some phenomenal bourbons, but you're supporting a great organization on top of that.
Yeah.
And then as you touched on, the Bourbon Lens, second prize of the 2 Lux Row picks with some glasses. And then we have the Misc Goods Co. Black Ceramic Flask.
Yeah.
Very nice flask, which I've worked with them on some previous stuff.
Featured previously in the Bourbon newsletter by Mark Salmon.
Yeah. But yeah, they do some really great stuff. And that flask, of course, you'll need to carry your very high quality bourbon collection. And then along with 2 decks of Kentucky the World illustrated playing cards, which just to touch on that a little bit so you know what you're getting into. Kentucky the World did a deck of playing cards with some of the previously featured and a few that we haven't featured yet, but with some sketches done in-house, of their profile, but featuring multiple famous Kentuckians on all the different playing cards, and then giving a little blurb on what they did or what they do. And you can also go onto the website, use like a learning tool and read even more about them. So like teachers can use them, or you can just read about them if you're curious either way.
So I joke with my wife all the time that she needs to learn more about history. So pop culture can be a form of history.
And all the people on these cards are still alive. So it's all like recent history. Yeah. And then so you can like ease her into it to some extent.
Well, I joke with her that she didn't get a really decent history education at Cal. They were just focused on the Bible. But I just kind of give her crap about that. No, I think this is a great cause. I was at the first bourbon raffle that you all had at Whirling Tiger earlier this year. And it was a great turnout. There's a lot of other things that happened. There was a couple people there that were, doing tastings. Castle and Key were there. Bardstown Bourbon Company was there. It was really cool to see them featured. Bardstown Bourbon Company was in that raffle, in that first raffle. And so there's a really cool vibe there. Actually, we had it live on the Instagram live channel for Bourbon Lens. And so I would just really encourage everyone to come out and check this out, because I think as we come out of the pandemic, I think we're out of it. We may not be, I don't know. As we come out of this and we live in this new normal, like getting back into the community, people are passionate about bourbon, but people should be passionate about Kentucky, because if they're not passionate about that, then there is no bourbon really, because the state represents so much good that bourbon is doing. And so I think this is just a great way to get involved. Again, $50 tickets, you're going to spend that on a bottle of whatever most of the time when you're going out, or if you're, it's one date night out that you don't do if you just want to buy one ticket, right? So I will definitely be purchasing some, because if I could get an Al Young bottle, like that would just be featured. Like I might like hang an extra shelf in the office here to just hoist up the Al Young bottle if I were to win. But the second place prize, let's talk about that for a second. I'm super excited about it because we're going to be launching our single barrels into market during that month of September as well. So there's an Ezra Brooks as well as a Rebel. Yeah, a Rebel. There's no yell anymore on it, but they're barrel strength. They're going to be great, and we're super excited to have those out into market. And what I was talking to Marcus about this prior to the show, very similar to like what we did with our Ferry Ranch bottle. We want to do bottles for a cause. So for every bottle we sell, $1 will be donated to Kentucky for the World. So we have like 500 bottles that are coming. So not only would you be celebrating a great cause just by entering into the raffle, but if you buy one of the Bourbon Blend single barrels as well, $1 for each of those bottles sold, we will donate a check to Kentucky to the World once they're all sold out. So, we're excited to jump in on this cause. Me and Scott are Kentuckians, and, without Kentucky, there really wouldn't be a lot of bourbon, since not all bourbon is Kentuckian, but some of the best bourbon is from Kentucky. This is the way I will say it. So definitely go out to KentuckyToTheWorld.org and buy those raffle tickets. So if you were to explain Kentucky to the World to someone, we've hit on the bourbon raffle, but like what other types of events do you do? Like how would you explain to someone to get involved with this organization? Like
I was touching on, pre-pandemic, there was a lot of speaker events, so we're getting back into some of those, and like having the actual people who, you may or may not have heard of, but like have done some like really significant stuff, come and talk. And we have a student program along with that. So, giving kids from local schools like free tickets to like come in, and you're doing like, whether this person is doing it, getting into science or like the arts or whatever, like get people from those programs in local schools come to learn more about, somebody from your community came up and did this kind of stuff. And deeper dive. So they're learning at the same time as well as getting inspired. And then the goal at the same time is going beyond the state of Kentucky and like showing, New York City has stuff like the New York Times, which everybody gets, and, you're going to learn a lot about New York just because of that. So it's like, have a megaphone of sorts for the state of Kentucky as well.
Yeah.
To just highlight that, because there's like, Pulitzer Prize. Like we just featured like Dana Kennedy, who, she's done everything in the editing and like publishing world. And then like an editor at LinkedIn, and like, somebody high up on the board in Spotify. We got like a Nobel Prize winner that we've had speaking.
You got Marcus Neiman.
Yeah.
So I'll put you on the spot. I mean, you got these cards. Like, what's one of the Kentuckians that's kind of stood out to you as, someone in science, someone in bourbon? Is there anyone that's kind of like stood out to you that you all have featured?
So bourbon related. We put Julian Van Winkle on the first set of cards.
Makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah. So we're getting the low hanging fruit, you might say, on that first round. But so we want to, like, especially to start, we want to kind of hit the intersection of, hit the pop culture side of it. So like you're drawing attention for that, and then as we go further and further, you're hitting stuff that's like more and more niche, to where you're kind of like highlighting like, oh, I haven't heard about this at all, but this is very significant kind of work.
Well, and Julian, I think, is the perfect example of how pop culture and bourbon like crossover, right? Like the Pappy Heist, like you have the whole Netflix documentary, you have everything that it goes on with Old Rip Van Winkle and Pappy Van Winkle, from like them distilling in Shively to them, partnering with Buffalo Trace and, all that. So like if there is a bourbon person, the Van Winkle name is probably at the forefront of that. Like maybe the only people that would rival that would be the Beams.
Yeah.
Because they're on their 9th generation distiller from the same family.
And luckily, the way bourbon's going, we're getting more and more people who are becoming, widely known. Yeah. But then, like, we got Tony Moore, who created The Walking Dead.
Oh, sweet.
And I don't know, you're definitely putting me on the spot here. But then on, like, Perry Bacon, he's a journalist, like, really prominently featured, like, New York Times. And
did you put Katie Couric on there?
I don't remember if she's on there or not.
I mean, come on, it is Louisville.
We are currently working on the second deck of cards.
There we go.
So I do have some of those people crossed in my head that I don't want to mix up. And
but I mean, you're going to feature a lot of people. Like if you go through downtown Louisville, you can see like Louisville's is Katie's or Louisville's is Jennifer Lawrence's or whomever, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a great way to probably look at some of the people you're probably featured, plus way more than that.
Yep.
People I'm not even thinking of.
Yep. I'll cheat and go through the list now. You got Justin Thomas from the PGA.
He's kind of
good. Yeah, he's halfway decent. Pat Day, who's the Kentucky Derby winning jockey. Sturgill Simpson, country music artist. Ed Hamilton is an acclaimed sculptor. Dana Kennedy, who I just touched on. Tracy Drain is a rocket scientist at NASA.
Too bad we haven't put any rockets out lately on the moon.
We won't get it. Phil Sharp is who I've been kind of touching on the, he's a Nobel Prize winner for medicine, looking at RNA splicing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
I mean, there's some pretty acclaimed people.
Yeah. And then, I mean, there's some people who have been in some major positions that you may have been, like Diane Sori is on there.
Yeah.
But then Matthew Barzon was former U.S. ambassador to United Kingdom and Sweden.
Oh, sweet. So people even that have been Kentuckians that have done things that you don't even think about or held prominent positions.
Yeah, it's like, of course, you've heard of that position, but then you don't know every ambassador. Like, all right, you can put those two together.
And you don't know, like, what Kentuckians have gone on to be CEOs of certain companies.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of that does happen. Which is pretty cool. Or like there's prominent people that, have passed away, like David Jones, like the person who created Humana.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal, right? Like that has
pretty major company.
Yeah. It kind of worked there for 10 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's exciting. I love this because I love history. Like I was going to be a history teacher at one point in college, and then I realized I don't get paid enough. And I was like, you know what? I want to go into business because, business ethics is. If you don't know that reference, go watch Billy Madison. It's a class movie. But yeah, super excited about this raffle. Super excited about partnering with Kentucky to the World on this upcoming raffle. Check it out again. What's the date of the event?
September 27th.
6:00, right?
The happy hour starts at 6. The drawing itself is at 7:30.
Yeah.
So yeah, come hang out either way. But then, as we touched on, worth getting 1 to multiple tickets.
Yeah.
To improve your odds. And all the rules are on the website, but there's a limit to 500 tickets. So with a $50 ticket and that limit, the value's there, your odds are there.
So there's only 500 tickets sold.
Total, yeah.
Oh, I mean, like your odds are awesome.
Yeah.
Like we need to blow this up. We need to sell it all 500 tickets.
We need to hit the ceiling for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like that's a hell of a deal. So even if there are 500 tickets, your odds of 1 in 500, like think about it. The person who hit Mega Millions was 1 in like 273 million.
Yeah.
According to the billboard that I passed on 65. So there's a lot better odds to get an Al Young and a Wild Turkey 17 bottled and bond and all the other great lineup that we talked about. And if you come in second, guess what, guys? You end up with some cool quality picks from the Bourbon Lens. It's not that bad of a deal. So again, come check that out. September 27th, 6 to 8, down there at the Local Seltzery. The drawing will be at 7:30.
That might drag out longer. Who knows?
Yeah. It's party. We may play some Waka Flocka. There could be some Grove Street. It'll be a good time. because football will be in full effect, and I'll probably only be talking
It's
about
Bourbon Heritage Month at that point as well, which we didn't even touch on.
Oh, that's another thing, as we kind of close this out, like Kentucky Bourbon Festival will have happened, Bourbon and Beyond will have happened. And so like the whiskey precipice will really end with this.
Put the little cherry on top of the Bourbon Heritage Month.
It will. You got the whipped cream with all those festivities, and then the cherry was the fact that you spent $50 to get a raffle ticket to something that like is publicizing Kentucky, but also you get a chance to win some amazing bottles. That's a win.
Yep. Everybody's winning.
It's a win-win-win. So again, check out KentuckyToTheWorld.org for more information, or go over to their social channels at Kentucky to the World and purchase a raffle ticket for $50. We really appreciate you listening to this episode of the Bourbon Lens. Again, it is Bourbon Heritage Month, so make sure you're checking out all things bourbon and Kentucky bourbon specifically. If you want more information about Bourbon Lens, check out Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Bourbon Lens. As always, you can go over to patreon.com/Bourbon Lens to get exclusive activities and opportunities to hang out with us and some of our guests that we have on the podcast for exclusive tastings. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.